The Google Pixel 6a is a well-rounded smartphone, but for me, it's not sparking the joy I was hoping for. Certainly having more options in the market is never a bad thing, but with intense competition in the mid-range segment from Samsung, Nothing, and even Apple, I'm left wondering, is the Pixel 6a enough to leave an impression? Full disclosure, Google sent us this phone to try out, and it looks absolutely stunning in this beautiful sage color. It bears close resemblance to its bigger brother, the Pixel 6, which is a very good thing. The aesthetics are simple and clean, uniquely pixel, and easy to identify, with the key feature being this distinct edge-to-edge camera bump, breaking up the rectangular slate and adding some nice visual contrast. It also has a practical benefit, allowing you to use the device on a table without any sort of wobble, which is certainly an improvement over literally everything. The 6a as a whole sports a happy balance of materials that hardly seems like a compromise in the hand. Gorilla Glass up front, metal frame with a matte finish on the side, and a plastic rear shell that feels surprisingly close to glass. It oozes premium vibes that go toe-to-toe with options like the iPhone SE, which has a full glass and metal build. Okay, so I think Google nailed the physical design of the Pixel 6a. However, there's more to this phone that's making me really think that it's mid as fuck. Now, before you grab your pitchforks and yell about how I'm wrong, smartphones are probably one of the few things in this world where it's acceptable being mid. Right up there with Austin Evans content.
Hey guys!
The Pixel 6a. It doesn't do anything amazing, it doesn't do anything god-awful. Positive, the 6.1-inch 1080p OLED display looks absolutely brilliant for watching content. Negative, 60 Hz, kinda not great for a new Android phone in 2022, even for a mid-ship product. Positive, a clean stock build of Android 12 with no bloat means your phone isn't cluttered the second you set up in it, as boring as that might be. Negative, stock Android loses out on some cool features that third parties have built into their own versions. Even the main rear-facing camera screams mid. It effectively uses the same 12-megapixel sensor featured in the last few generations of Pixels. While yes, Google's always been about software processing to enhance color, detail, and exposure, but it's hard to get around that photos aren't as sharp as its bigger brother, the Pixel 6, which has a 50-megapixel sensor, as well as a lot of the competition that also have high-resolution hardware. Perhaps the least mid thing on this phone is its performance. Google fit the Pixel 6a with its in-house Tensor SoC, which is the same chip powering its flagship Pixel 6. In the context of high-end phones, it might not be as performant as current-gen SoC from Apple and Qualcomm, but it still packs a punch well above where it should be for a sub-$500 device, especially for demanding tasks like gaming. I especially saw the benefits of Google's optimization in how smooth and consistent navigating the UI is, regardless of how much I'm doing on the phone. And with 5 years of guaranteed security updates, for people that run their phones for years and years to the ground, it will probably hold up for quite some time too. The Pixel 6a is mid. It's a mid-ship phone with compromises to fit a certain price point. For most normal people who might not care about cutting-edge specs, it's all a phone they'll probably ever need without having to fork over flagship money. At $450 MSRP, it's priced very well. In a vacuum. It's consistent with its predecessor, the Pixel 5a, which many people considered to be, at the time, the best deal in Android phones. However, the 6a is launching at a very interesting time. Last Prime Day, we saw the Pixel 6 hit the $500 mark. And if that discount becomes more of a common occurrence, you might as well shell out the extra bones to get the bigger, better brother. And yeah, I know comparing promotional sales to retail pricing might not be the fairest thing on paper, but it's still a real-world shopping scenario. Also, I'm sure we're gonna see discounts on the Pixel 6a down the line anyways, because its main competitor is already on heavy discount 4 months into its release. And naturally, I bought one, so let's see if it's any good. This is the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, and if you're in the market for a mid-shift phone, this one's pretty hard to beat, though it does come with its own fair share of compromises, just like the Pixel. The A53's mostly plastic construction certainly doesn't look or feel as premium or comfortable to hold, but it's still exceptionally solid, quality, and even shares some design ID with the higher-end Galaxy S line to help quell any FOMO that you might feel buying the cheaper phone. But where the A53 really shows its value is in its feature set and especially the price. Samsung gives you a 6.5-inch 1080p AMOLED display, and while it's not as sharp or bright as the Pixel, it does have a 120Hz refresh rate. It doesn't just make navigating the UI buttery smooth, but perceptually it's quick and snappy compared to that Pixel, even though the A53 is rocking a mid-range Exynos processor. I've noticed the A53 stutter occasionally or take an extra second to load something, but when you spend a lot of time scrolling through Twitter or web pages and your touch inputs feel very quick and fluid, that's when I think the higher refresh rate makes a difference to the Galaxy feeling faster and more powerful, even when it's not. Samsung also offers a great set of cameras, front and back, on the A53 5G. As always, color and processing on smartphone shooters is subjective. I actually prefer the Pixel's software touches a bit more. However, the 64-megapixel sensor on the A53 gives you more detail. There's also a macro lens, which is fun to play around with, and on the front, there's a 32-megapixel selfie camera. That's definitely cool on paper, and it's certainly sharp, but I think the 12-megapixel front camera on the Pixel produces more pleasant images. Oh, the battery on this thing is also kinda nuts. 5,000 milliamp hour capacity. It's basically good for a day. Or two, depending on how you use it, which is amazing when you're used to power-hungry flagships that always seem to have relatively small batteries. In all, the A53 offers a different formula of compromises compared to the Pixel 6a. But I wouldn't be here talking about it in length if it wasn't for its price. Even though it launched in March of this year for $450 MSRP, 4 months later in July, you can buy this thing for $350. And if I hazard a guess, judging by the international white box version that's on Amazon for like $316, the A53 can possibly go even cheaper during more aggressive retail holidays. Again, I know to some of you it's not quite fair to measure up promotional deals with MSRP, but until the 6A gets discounted, I think it's worth considering the A53, or at least playing the waiting game for if or when a sale comes around. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Denki Channel, and let me know, what would you pick, the Pixel 6a or the Galaxy A53?